How's it going, guys, and welcome back to the channel for another Star Wars gaming video. And in today's video I wanted to answer and further discuss the question of whether or not a Battlefront 3 is even possible at this point. This is a question that I get asked constantly here on YouTube and also in the chats of my streams, and I always end up going off on a tangent, so I thought why not make this into a YouTube video to sit down and discuss it with you all. Now, I have made videos in the past where I discuss a potential Battlefront 3 and speculate on what it could mean for Star Wars games and why I think it is needed, but today is very different. I haven't really dived deep into this specific question before, and of course that being, is Battlefront 3 even a possibility? Like, could it actually happen? And if it was to happen, how the hell would they even pull it off? I think we all know how big this game would have to be to even just meet expectations, and that in itself would just be a giant feat. So we'll of course dive into all of that throughout this video and sort of answer those questions that we don't want to. But before we dive into all of that, this video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends because rent doesn't pay itself. I'm sure most of you have heard of Raid Shadow Legends by now. It's a very popular turn-based RPG for PC and mobile with very impressive graphics, where you can loot and fight until your heart is content. Use my links below to download Raid for yourself to your mobile phone or PC while I tell you a little bit more. Raid has 16 different factions which include undead hordes, dwarves, orcs, you name it. You can find them all on the index screen, with each faction being made of many unique champions. I went with the orcs because they look awesome. This rare champion, Galek, has a really cool Hellraiser ability that I really enjoyed. It just yeets everyone. Raid is also constantly bringing out new champions. Here's some concept art of some that they are currently working on. The detail and quality is above what you expect from a mobile game. I'm really liking the look of this dude here because he is absolutely huge, and yeah, I just can't wait to see how these champions turn out. This game honestly did surprise me, to be honest. It was a lot of fun and its visuals are really good. Make sure you use the link in the description and make sure you're quick because every new player will get an exclusive welcome pack that contains 50,000 silver, 50 gems, 5 mystery shards, 1 energy refill, 1 day XP boost, 1 clan boss key, and a free awesome champion, Hex Weaver. And you will find all those extra rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days only. So be sure to check the links below, and a big thank you to Raid Shadow Legends for sponsoring this video and keeping this channel alive. But for now, let's dive into the video. So Battlefront 3, the ever elusive title that escaped the clutches of Star Wars fans in the mid to late 2000s, and it seems like we're on a similar path here in 2020. Is it coming? When could it be coming? Who knows? All we know for sure at this point is if it were to happen, 1, it would be the best thing for Star Wars games, and 2, it would be absolutely massive. Now, before we dive deeper into this, I just want to set the record straight because I am kind of overseeing people comment on these videos saying that there is a Battlefront 3 already in development and that it's just been kept on the down low. For starters, that is wrong, and how would you even know in the first place? There is no Battlefront 3 in development right now, and there likely won't be for at least another 3 years. The only way there is one in development right now is if Disney and EA have come to an agreement behind the scenes with the exclusivity license, and they've managed to keep it as one of the best kept secrets in the gaming industry, which I highly doubt. DICE, after all, are working on the new Battlefield game, and I mean, we all know how we feel about that. So moral of the story is, if a Battlefront 3 is to happen, it's either going to be post 2023 if EA gets the rights to Star Wars games once again, or if an agreement has been made behind closed doors and they've managed to keep absolutely everything under wraps, which is very unlikely. That's where we are right now, but I think EA keeping the Star Wars license is almost a guarantee at this point. Therefore, Battlefront 3 is going to be a talking point over the next few years regardless. It's just the way the Star Wars community works. Battlefront 3 is the game that most people want to see, and you might disagree with that personally because you're not in that majority, but it's objectively true. So let's talk about it. Can this elusive Battlefront 3 even happen? Well, for starters, we need to consider content. Star Wars gamers are not pushovers. They, after all, are one of the main reasons that the gaming industry was changed forever after Battlefront 2's release. So the release of Battlefront 3, it's going to have to be damn near perfect, because if a Battlefront 3 is made, the game's release is going to be under the microscope by not just Star Wars fans, but everyone in the gaming industry. If one foot is put wrong, it's going to be brought to the forefront and be in the headlines. Now granted, I don't think if anything went wrong it would be in the headlines like Battlefront 2 was. That was just like a crazy old fiasco, but it's something that did need to happen for the betterment of the gaming industry. The entire release process would almost have to be flawless for Battlefront 3. Everything from how microtransactions are incorporated into the game, to the way the progression works, the amount of content, and the plan for future DLC. If it's a season pass, it's going to cause controversy. If it's free DLC, then they're going to have to monetize the game somewhere else, whether we like it or not. Otherwise, it's probably just bad business. They already took their loss supporting Battlefront 2 for as long as they did, due to Battlefront 2's monetization virtually just being non-existent. I think if they'd done free DLC and had a currency in the game and they released skins weekly or with every update, then that would work well for everyone involved. The game's live service goes on for longer because the game's making more money, and the pay-to-win aspect is non-existent due to microtransactions only being linked to cosmetics. It works for everyone. And that's the module that most games are taking nowadays anyway, so it would be hard for them to come under scrutiny if that's the route they went. I think we can all agree that the skins in Battlefront 2 were a massive missed opportunity. They came too few and far between, mostly due to DICE playing catch-up since the game's launch. But if they started cosmetics out on the right foot in a Battlefront 3, that could be an area of the game that would be amazing. The blueprint is there, it's just up to EA to take it. But we can't talk about Battlefront 3 and it even being possible to be made without talking about heroes. Heroes are one of the main reasons people come to play Battlefront games. It's what makes them unique. Apart from being a Star Wars version of Battlefield, it's the main hook and selling point. Now, Battlefront 2015 had a very poor hero roster when the game first came out, but that's kind of at the fault of the game only having one era on offer. There were 6 heroes during the launch of Battlefront 2015, those being Luke, Han, Leia, Vader, Palpatine, and Boba Fett. Then through paid DLC, Nien Nunb, Greedo, Chewie, Bossk, Dengar, Lando, Krennic, and Jyn Erso were added. So 14 heroes all up, not a bad roster, but over half of the heroes were behind a DLC paywall. Now when it comes to Battlefront 2, they wanted to kick it up a notch with more heroes from all 3 eras of Star Wars, but at the launch of the game, 5 of the 14 heroes that were in Battlefront 2015 were non-existent in Battlefront 2. So although the hero roster was expanded with new heroes like Darth Maul, Rey, Yoda, and Kylo Ren, just to name a few, it was still half a step backwards. And by the time Battlefront 2 support came to an end, there was 22 heroes in the game, so I don't think if a Battlefront 3 came out with less than 22 heroes, players would be all too happy. The expectations of Star Wars gamers are just too high. They just are. I can't imagine it going down well if Anakin is missing at the launch of Battlefront 3. So they'd have to deliver the entire 22 hero roster from Battlefront 2, plus more to sell the game. That's a whole lot of development time. And then you need to take into consideration planets and game modes. Luckily, there is plenty of planets that we are still to see in the new EA Battlefront games. They've at some point or another touched on most of the important heroes, but as for planets, there is still so much to explore. A lot of mainstream locations like Coruscant for an example, so they have options to reel players in and give them a good reason to come back for the 3rd installment. Not that they would really need to, because the game would pretty much sell itself anyway, but the point still stands. And when it comes to game modes, if Galactic Conquest isn't there, again, that's going to piss a whole lot of people off. The modes in Battlefront 2 are fine, but without Galactic Conquest, it just isn't going to be that ultimate Battlefront game that they're trying to create. Supremacy came close-ish in Battlefront 2, but that realistically was just a light version of Galactic Conquest at best. So I've just spouted off a ton of expectations that would have to be met for the game to be received really well on launch. There is a lot there, I know, and that's my point. It's a lot to expect. Hence why I think building off of Battlefront 2 would have just been the better idea, but we all know the fate of Battlefront 2. As terrible of a decision as it was, it does open a new pathway for a bigger and better game. But that 3rd installment is going to take a ton of time to make, a ton of resources and a ton of money, but it would undoubtedly be worth it. I think we can all agree on that. Star Wars basically sells itself, it just does. You'd have to be a monkey in a suit to lose money when it comes to Star Wars. Now, looking at all the expectations I listed off for the launch of a Battlefront 3, do I think it's reasonable to expect all of that content? No, I don't. Unless they commit to a stupidly long development time set out to make a game with stupid amounts of content. Kind of like LEGO Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, a lot of development time, a massive game. But let's be real, in Battlefront's case, that's probably not gonna happen. Now, EA aren't stupid. They know the game will sell no matter what. They could undercut content and it's still going to make stupid amounts of money and be financially successful whether players like it or not. Because like I said, it's Star Wars, it sells itself. But even if those shortcuts are taken, a Battlefront 3 would still be years away. A game like that needs a lot of development time, unless they build off of Battlefront 2 and carry most of that pre-existing content over to a new title in the same engine. If they don't do that, I just don't see a Battlefront 3 coming for at least 3 to 5 years, maybe even longer. So do I think a Battlefront 3 is possible? Yeah, I do, just not for a really long time. We have to be reasonable with our expectations here. Big AAA games don't happen overnight, and taking the Star Wars license running out in 2023 into consideration, that just throws another spanner in the works. Like, if the license was to run out in like 2025, then I'd say hell yeah, expect a Battlefront 3 in like a year or two's time, but that's just not the situation that we're in. The only hope of seeing a Battlefront 3 sooner than 3 to 5 years time is if, like I said, there's been a behind closed doors agreement between Disney and EA, and one is just in development right now and it's the best kept secret in the gaming industry. But that's just what I think. Go ahead, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you think a Battlefront 3 is even possible given the current situation of Star Wars games? Or do you think it's just too much to ask for right now? I'm interested to hear all sides of the argument here, but if you did go on to enjoy this video, then be sure to drop a like to help get the video out there, and subscribe to the channel for all things Star Wars gaming. But that's pretty much going to do it for me today, so thank you all for watching, and have a good one.